Good morning to all of you. In today's lecture, we'll start with a new module that is gear drives, spur gear, and helical. And in the next module, you have bevel gear and worm gear. Before starting with the gears, you should know what do you mean by this gear drives. We'll see the basics of the gears. After that, we'll take down the procedure for designing the spur gear as well as helical gear. What do you mean by gear drive? Already you have studied this in your elements of mechanical engineering first year, in your kinematics of machine. We have studied about the gear drives. These gear drives are nothing but these are used to transmit the power or transmit the motion from one shaft to the other shaft. And the same which you have discussed in the previous lecture, that is belt drives. That is also used to transmit the power from one shaft to the another shaft. If the center distance is more, you will use belt drive. If the center distance is less between the two shafts, then you will go for gear drives. This is about the gear drive. In this, whatever the drive shafts are there, the drive shafts are parallel. The drive shafts are parallel. It will be intersecting, or in some of the cases, neither the gear or the drive shafts, neither it will be parallel nor it will be intersecting by the use of the gears. Okay, and in that case, different types of gears are there. The commonly used gears are spur gear, helical gear, bevel gear, worm gear, spiral gear, and rack and pinion gear. These are the different types of gears which will be used to transmit the power from one shaft to the other shaft. In this, you can use different types of gear. Okay, each have certain applications when and where you have to use. Okay, that you will be knowing in the classifications, how these are classified, whether whatever the position of the axis of the gears are there, whether it is a parallel, intersecting, or sometimes neither it will be parallel or nor it will be intersecting. Depending upon that, you have to use different types of gears. Okay, we'll see the classifications of the gear one by one. First one is according to the relative position of the axis gears. These are going to be classified as parallel axis gear, and next one is the intersecting axis gear, and the last one is non-parallel and non-intersecting axis gear. This is according to the relative position of the axis gears. They are going to be classified as parallel axis gear, intersecting axis gear, and one more is neither it will be parallel, that is non-parallel and non-intersecting axis gear. Okay, which types of gears we are going to call it as a parallel axis gear? Which type of gears are going to be called as parallel axis gear? The examples for parallel axis gear are spur gear and helical gear. Okay, if the axis of shaft on which gear are mounted are parallel. Here you can see that gears are going to be mounted. That is this is the axis of the shaft, and this is the axis of the another shaft of a gear. Here the axis of the shafts on which the gears are going to be mounted are parallel. Okay, such types of gears are going to be called as spur gear, helical gear, and it is called as parallel axis gear. The examples are spur gear and helical gear. I will repeat it once again. Parallel axis gears are nothing but the axis of the shaft on which the gears are going to be mounted. It should be parallel. Such type of gears are called as parallel axis gears, and the examples are spur gear. This is the spur gear and this is the helical gear. And the second one is a intersecting axis gear. If the axis of the shaft on which the gears are mounting are intersecting, here you can see that the axis of the gears of shafts which the gears are going to be mounted are intersecting, and such types of gears are called as intersecting axis gear, and the example is a bevel gear. Here you can see that this is a bevel gear. And the last one is neither it is parallel nor it is intersecting. Those are called as non-parallel, non-intersecting axis gear. And the example is a worm gear. Which type of gears we'll call it as non-intersecting and non-parallel axis gear? If the axis of shafts on which the gears are mounted are neither parallel, it is not parallel. Here you can see that it is not parallel, and here it is not intersecting also. Such types of gears are called as non-parallel and non-intersecting axis gear. The example is worm gear. This is the worm gear. These are the different types of gears and how they are going to be classified according to the relative position of the axis of the gear. Now, the second one, according to the peripheral velocity of the gears. In this, it is going to be classified into three types. One is low velocity, second one is medium velocity, and third one is a high velocity gears. Which type of gears we are going to call it as a low velocity gears? If the speed is less than 3 meters per second, such type of gears are called as low velocity gears. The second one is a medium velocity gear. If the speed of the gear is in between 3 to 14 meters per second, such type of gears are called as medium velocity gear. And the last one is a high velocity gear. If the speed is greater than 15 meters per second, such types of gears are called as high velocity gears. And the next classification is according to the type of gearing. Okay, in this, two types of gearings are done. One is internal gearing, other one is external gearing. The below figure which you are seeing, it is an internal gearing and this is a external gearing. Okay, internal gearings are nothing but here the gear meshes are internally and both will rotate in the same direction. For example, here you can see that if this is the rotation, the inside one, the outer one, the direction will be same. The gear meshes are internal. Here you can see that the gear meshes are internal and it rotates and it is going to rotate in the same direction. And in external, in the external, in the second figure which you are seeing, whatever the gear meshing are there, here the gear meshings are externally, and both will rotate in opposite direction. For example, if this is rotating, if this is rotating in clockwise, and this will be rotating in anti-clockwise, both will be rotating in opposite direction. Whereas in the internal, the meshes will be internal and both are rotating same direction. This is about internal and external gearing. The last one is according to the position of the teeth on the gear surface. Here you can see that these are the teeth on the gear surface. These are called for example, in the previous slide you have seen different types of gears. Okay, if the gear is or the teeth are straight, if the teeth are straight, then it is called as spur gear. And if the gears are inclined, here you can see that if the gear teeth are inclined, those are called as helical gears. And the next one is a curved teeth gear, which is a spiral one. If you see a curved teeth gears, those are called as spiral gears. This is how the classifications of gears are done. Once you understand the classification, and the next one is what are the materials which are used for manufacturing gears? To manufacture the gears, usually they are going to use cast iron, steel, phenolic resin, or bronze is used to manufacture the gears. And in the large size gears, are made up of gray cast iron. To manufacture large size gears, they will be using gray cast iron. And what are the properties which you need to consider while manufacturing the gears? The load carrying capacity of the gear tooths depends upon the ultimate tensile or yield strength of the material. Okay, the load carrying capacity of the gear tooth depends upon the material which you have selected, whose ultimate tensile strength and yield strength of that particular material matters. And the dimensions of the gear tooth is decided by wear rate. Whatever the dimensions of the gear tooth is there, it is decided by the wear rate rather than the strength rating. Usually in the maximum cases, what we'll see is we'll check the strength of that material. Whereas in gear, the dimension of the gear tooth is decided by the wear rate. And the next one is for high speed, when the gear is rotating at a high speed, to avoid failure due to scoring. Scoring is nothing but when the metal to metal contact takes place, then there will be a wear of the material, that is called as scoring. At a high speed, to avoid the failure due to scoring, the material should have a low coefficient of friction. If the material has a high coefficient of friction because of scoring, or when metal to metal contacts, there will be more wear rate. To avoid that, you should have a material which is having low coefficient of friction. And to minimize the amount of thermal distortion or wrapping during heat treatment process, alloy steels are going to be preferred rather than plain carbon steel. During the heat treatment process, to increase the properties or to increase the mechanical properties of the material, the heat treatment will be done. As you can see in material testing lab, to increase the hardness of a material or different properties, you are going for heat treatment. After that, oil quenching is done or water quenching is done. That is basically done to increase the mechanical properties of the material. Similarly, during the heat treatment process, to minimize the amount of the thermal distortion, the alloy steels are going to preferred rather than the plain carbon steels. This is about the materials for the gears. Now, a standard system of gear tooths are there. Okay, a standard system is there. You have to use that standard system. Basically, there are three systems. First one is a 14.5 degree involute system. Okay, in this whatever the 14.5 degree involute system is there, this involute profiles are obtained by gear generating process. By gear generating process, we are going to obtain this 14.5 degree involute system using the straight sided crank. From that, you're going to get this 14.5 degree involute system. That is, this is the standard system of gear tooth. And the second one is 20 degree full depth involute system. 20 degree full depth involute system. In this 20 degree full depth involute system, the teeth are, whatever the teeth are there, these are slightly broader at the root. For example, if you see in this, for example, if this is a 20 degree, assume that it is a 20 degree full depth involute system. In this, whatever the teeth are there, okay, teeth are slightly broader at the root. Here, this is the root of the teeth, and it will be stronger than the 14 degree and half involute system. This increment in pressure angle is going to reduce the number of teeth required to avoid the interference. This is about the 20 degree full depth involute system. The last one is 20 degree stub involute system. In this 20 degree stub involute system, the addendum, okay, whatever this addendum is there, addendum, I'm going to cover that in the terminologies of spur gear. Okay, there I will tell you what do you mean by this addendum. In this 20 degrees full depth involute, in a 20 degree stub involute system, the addendum is made stronger and working depth is usually 20% less than the full depth system. In 20 degree stub involute system, the addendum will be made stronger. Okay, and but whatever the working depth is there, it will be usually 20% less than the full depth involute system. This is about the standard systems of gear tooth. And the next one is gear tooth failure modes. How the gear tooth failure modes are there, or before that, you should know what are the advantages of using this 20 degree stub involute compared to 20 degree full depth involute system. The first advantage is the less interface due to the shorter addendum. Here, because of the shorter addendum, there will be less interference. And whatever the root is there, it will be stronger than the 20-degree full depth involute system. And the next one is low production cost. Compared to the 20-degree full depth involute system, whatever the production is there, the production cost is more, whereas 20-degree stub involute system, in this production cost is less compared to the previous one. And we'll see the failure modes in the gear. The main two reasons for the failures are, the first one is breaking of tooth due to the static and dynamic load. Okay? Because of the static load which will be acting, or dynamic load which will be acting on the gear, the teeth will break. That is the first reason. And the next one is a surface destruction. There might be surface destruction. The first one is because of the breaking of both of the tooths due to static and dynamic load. And the second one is because of the surface destruction. Okay. To make sure that whatever the designing of the gear is there, it should be made safe by changing some of the parameters, such as module or face width. Okay. In the next slide, I will tell you what in by module. That is the terminologies which are going to be used in the spur gear. To make the design of the gear safe, they are going to change the parameters such as face width and module. As a result of that, whatever the design of the gear is there, it will be safe. And as the gear starts rotating, okay, due to the rolling and sliding action of the gear teeth, some of the types of tool failure will take place, or tool wear may occur. Okay, we'll discuss that. The first one is abrasive wear. Abrasive wear is nothing but, in this the failure will be due to the presence of a foreign material in the lubricant that can scratch the tooth surface. Okay, as the gear starts rotating, okay, because of the presence of the foreign material, okay, which is in the lubricant, that can scratch the tooth surface. That is one abrasive wear. And the second one is a corrosive wear. As we know that corrosive is nothing but a failure due to the chemical reaction which takes place on the tool or the tooth surface, the gear tooth surface. Whatever the chemical reaction which takes place, that we are going to call it as a corrosive wear. And the next one is a pitting. It is a failure due to the repeated application of the stress cycle. Because of the repetitive application of the stress cycle, pitting takes place. Because of that, there will be a failure of the gear tooth. And the last one is a scoring. Okay, it is the failure due to the metal to metal contact. When metal to metal comes in contact, scoring happens. As a result of that, material or metal removal takes place from either of the gears. These are the different types of failure mode which you can observe in the gear tooth or the gear system. And the next one is a lubrication. Okay, why lubrication is important? As we know that the main purpose of the lubricant is to separate the tooth surface and remove the heat from the gears. Okay, the main purpose of using lubricant, why it is done? To separate the tooth. For example, here you can see that, okay, a lubricant is done, okay, to make sure that the both teeth should separate the tooth surface such that the wear will be less and it will remove the heat from the gears, as there will be a friction between two gears. As a result of that, there will be a friction. To reduce that, or there will be a lot of heat generated. To remove that heat, the lubricant is used. And the relative motion between two teeth or tooth is contact. It is a combination of what we call it as a rolling and sliding motion. There will be a rolling and sliding motion. And the combination of this rolling and sliding motion, it is going to increase the lubrication problem. Okay, for that reason, a splash and pump feed lubrications are the two methods which will be employed. Okay, and these two methods are nothing but which the oil is going to be applied to the gear system. By using these two, splash and pump feed, the lubricating oil is going to be applied to the gearing system. And for the low velocity, that is which is less than 15 meters per second, okay, we are going to use the splash system. If the velocity is low, like 15 meters per second, then splash system is used. And for velocities above 25 meters per second, we are going to use pump feed system will be used for lubricating the gear system. And usually these gears will be operating at high speed and low speed. Okay, according to that, you need to select a proper lubricating oil. Okay, if the gear is going to operate at low speed and whatever the loading is there, it is heavily loaded, at that time the lubricant you have to use is SAE 90. Okay, for each oil, they will mention the grade. This is a SAE 90 graded oil you have to use when it is operating at low speed and heavy loaded, and at whatever the temperature is there, it will be ambient temperature, and you have to use SAE 140 at high temperature. When it is subjected for high temperature application, at that time you have to use SAE 140 graded oil. And for aircraft turbine engine, okay, they will be using the synthetic oil. The synthetic oil has to be used for aircraft turbine engine. This is about the lubrication of the gear such that you can increase the duration of the gear system, and there should not be any wear. Then you have to use a proper graded oils depending upon whether you are using it for low speed or high speed. This is about the lubrication of the system. Now we'll see the terminologies which we are going to use in a spur gear. Terminologies which we are going to use in spur gear. Okay, you can see the spur gear. And the terminologies which will be using in the gear is a circular pitch. Okay, this circular pitch is nothing but it is the distance which is going to be measured. The distance which is going to be measured along the circumference of the pitch circle. Here you can see that this is the pitch circle. The distance measured along the circumference of the pitch circle from one point on one tool to the corresponding point on the adjacent tool. It is called as circular pitch. Here you can see that this is a circular pitch. It is the distance measured along the circumference of the pitch circle from the point on one tool to the corresponding point on the adjacent tool, and it is going to be denoted by PC. It is going to be denoted by PC, and the formula which is used to find out the circumferential is P is equal to pi into m, that is module. In the next, I will tell you what do you mean by this module, where m is nothing but module. And the next is the diametral pitch. Diametral pitch is nothing but it is expressed as a number of teeth per unit length. It is expressed as the diametral pitch is expressed as the number of teeth per unit length on the pitch circle. This is the pitch circle. It is expressed as the number of teeth per unit on the pitch circle diameter, and that is denoted by PD. Circular pitch is denoted by PC, whereas diametral pitch is denoted by PD. It is Z divided by D. Z is nothing but the number of teeth on the gear divided by this D is nothing but pitch circle diameter. D is nothing but pitch circle diameter. And the next one is module. It is denoted by M. Module is nothing but it is the module is the length of the pitch circle diameter per tooth. Module is the length of pitch circle diameter per tooth or teeth, and it is denoted by M. Okay, to calculate that module is equal to D by Z. D divided by Z. By using this formula, you can calculate the module. And the next terminology which will be used is a backlash. A backlash is nothing but it is the difference between the thickness of the tooth and the width of the tooth space, okay, in which it is meshed. Backlash is nothing but it is the difference between the thickness of the teeth. This is the teeth, thickness of the teeth and the width of the teeth. The next one is a clearance. Clearance, it is the difference between the addendum. Here you can see that addendum and dedendum. It is the difference between addendum of one gear and dedendum of the mating gear. This clearance is nothing but it is the difference between addendum of one gear and the other gear which is mating. Okay, in that we'll take the dedendum of that mating gear. Whatever the difference is there, that difference is called as clearance. The next one is a pitch point. This pitch point is nothing but it is the point of contact of two mating gears pitch circle. This is the pitch circle. the pitch circle of the other gear, okay, which is going to be mating. Okay, that point is called as pitch point. The point of contact of two mating gears pitch circle is known as pitch point. And the next one is a base pitch. This base pitch is nothing but it is the distance which is measured along the base circle. Here you can see that this is the base circle. The distance measured along the base circle from a point on one teeth, or you can call it as one tooth. It is the distance measured along the base circle from one point on one teeth to the corresponding point on the adjacent tooth, and that is going to be denoted by PB. That will be denoted as PB. And next is the addendum. Here you can see that this is called as addendum and this is called as dedendum. Addendum is nothing but it is the radial height of the tooth above pitch circle. Here you can see that this is the pitch circle. This is the pitch circle. Addendum is the radial height of the teeth or tooth above the pitch circle. And dedendum is also radial. Okay, but here we'll take the depth. This is the height and this is the depth. The radial depth of the tooth below the pitch circle is called as dedendum. And here you can see that this is called as dedendum circle and addendum circle. This is the addendum circle and this is dedendum circle. Addendum circle is nothing but the circle which is passing through the tips of all the teeth are known as addendum circle. Here you can see that it is passing through the tips of all the teeth or the tooths is called as addendum circle. Here I have taken only two teeth like that. This circle will pass on each teeth. And next one is a dedendum. This is the dedendum circle. The dedendum circle which is going to pass through the root. This is the root of the gear teeth. Passing through the root of all the tooths. And we are going to call it as dedendum circle. The next one is a pitch circle. This pitch circle is a imaginary circle passing through the pitch point, having its center at the axis of the gear. Here you can see that whatever the center is there, it will be at the axis of the gear. It is the imaginary circle passing through the pitch point, having its center at the axis of the gear. And this is face. The face is nothing but the surface above the pitch. Okay, the surface above the pitch surface is called face. And the next one is a flank. Flank is nothing but the surface below the pitch. This is above the pitch and this is below the pitch. The surface below the pitch surface is called as flank. These are the different terminologies which will be using in the spur gear.